Hello YouTube. This is Samsung Pro with my first actually review of, as you can tell in the title of the video, Fury 325, the Giga Coaster, the B&M Giga Coaster at Carowinds. Obviously this is the first of its kind. Obviously I've made it pretty clear that I love roller coasters, but I've never posted a review before, but I have been waiting to ride this coaster for so long. Um, that I had to do a review of it because, if you guys are aware of it, it was all over the news that for a while it had a crack on it. I actually went to Carowinds back in the summer. I think it was in July, somewhere around there. During that month, I went and found out when I was on the way there that it had a crack, and therefore I couldn't ride it. So I recently went again this past September, on the 30th to be exact. The 30th of September is when I rode it. I lapped it all day. From morning to night. It was fantastic. I got about 20-ish rides so on it. But because of this ride, this was definitely, I know a lot of people are going to disagree with me. I mean, I can tell you, I have almost, compared to Coaster Studios and a lot of other, coaster reviews out there, I don't have a lot of credits, compared to other reviewers. But I have done a lot, even though my credits are small, I've done a lot of the major coasters. This is that Fury actually was my third Giga. I also done Millennium Force at Cedar Point, and I've done I-305 at King's Dominion. Boy, I-305 is definitely the most intense roller coaster I've ever done. But out of all three of the Gigas, Fury is my favorite. A lot of people, I've heard from people say Fury is overrated. I don't think so. It comes down to personal preference. Maybe because people say it's not intense, and I will agree, Fury is not intense. That's why I love it. I'm not a super intense roller coaster rider. I love to ride a coaster that is fun, that doesn't offer too much force. If you remember back then, I used to post videos of Busch Gardens and Montu and Sheikah and them, and I've gotten older over the years, and I can't, ride Montu as much because, with age, so Iron Gwazi is definitely the most reroutable coaster at my home park. Thankful to have that RMC. But anyways, yeah, so Fury is definitely my, definitely at least top three favorite coasters. Iron Gwazi, I'll throw Iron Gwazi in there too. But definitely Fury, I think, is number one for many reasons, which I'm going to go over in the review. But it also, I had to review it because this coaster, I had been so hyped up and it was worth the wait. I ended up having to go again, riding in September. So I waited from July to September. Obviously during that time they had to fix the crack and then had to wait and go ride it. So it was amazing. So it was worth the hype. It was worth the wait, and I had a great time. Definitely the best drop on any roller coaster I've ever experienced anywhere, in my opinion. But yeah, let's get into this review. So I guess the first thing I'll talk about is like the impression. Obviously, the number one reason why I wanted to go there is to experience that drop on Fury because it's just massive, and it just looks amazing. But I'll get to it right away, even before I even start doing the review, because obviously the drop is like the main highlight of the coaster. I will tell you that it wasn't. It was definitely amazing. Like you feel like you're falling forever. And it was amazing. You do feel like you're falling. But the thing I was kind of disappointed in is maybe it just comes down to a person, because I've been riding many roller coasters, for years now, and maybe my body's gotten used to it. But I did not get, and I have gotten, I'll be honest with you, and a lot of people said this, what I was going to say is I get that stomach dropping feeling. I didn't really feel that on Fury's drop. I get it more on Intimidator. But Intimidator is definitely one of my favorite B&M hypers, and I've actually done Mako at SeaWorld Orlando. Those two coasters, I actually get that feeling more, but for some reason, I don't know why, I did not really feel that sensation. But again, it might be because I've gotten used to it. I-305's drop kind of felt pretty similar, except that Fury's drop is a little longer. Just kind of like I'm a backseat rider. I did take one ride in the front on Fury, but most of the time I got back row. I'll talk about seating later in the review, how that works. But I sat in the back row because I'm a backseat rider, and I like riding in the back. But I'll say that the back row, when you go over that drop, you feel like a kind of what I predicted. You just feel like a pull going down. You don't really feel the sensation. But I will say though, definitely one of the best sustained. That mean because the drop is so long going down, you get a good. I mean, all the way from the top to the bottom, you float out of your seat. The greatest for those who maybe have not gotten a chance to go to Carowinds and ride Fury, I would say that the closest coaster that I could compare Fury to, you guys might hate me for this, but I would actually say it almost feels like a dive coaster. I mean, again, my home park is Busch Gardens, Tampa, so I've been riding Sheikra over many years. And again, like I said, I'm a backseat rider, so I won't say this again applies to the backseat on Sheikra. On a dive coaster, you feel. Now, I haven't actually done a dive. I haven't done. When I went to Cedar Point, I did not ride Valraven. The only actually B&M I've experienced with those vest restraints is the new stand-up at SeaWorld Pipeline. All of the B&Ms, most of them that I've done, I've actually experienced the original classic over the shoulder because all of Busch Gardens, Tampa's, and Williamsburg's harnesses use the classic over the shoulder, which I think is much better. When I rode that vest restraint, had it on me, and during Pipeline, it was horrible. But anyways, so you get that sensation of floater airtime, in the back seat, and I would say that Fury's drop almost feels like Sheikah's, just longer. That is the best comparison I can give to. For those who haven't ridden, to kind of give you an idea of what it feels like. It's just amazing, long, sustained floater air as you're going down. It is amazing. But like I said, I did not get that stomach dropping feeling. It really, and as I actually continued to ride, I rode it, like I said, 20 times. As I continued to ride it throughout the day, I actually kind of got used to it. It started, obviously the first ride of any roller coaster in the day is going to be the best one. After that, it's kind of, have a good time, But as I continued to ride it, it kind of got less and less intense, for me. It was just pure speed. That's what Fury's great for and known for, is just speed. So I just wanted to kind of say that even before I get to the rest of the review of the coaster, just to get to it straight away, because that was obviously the main reason why I wanted to go, to see what that drop's going to feel like. And I kind of predicted that it was going to feel like, and I wasn't wrong. But it's still amazing because you feel like you're falling forever. It's just amazing. But yeah, going back to it. So yeah, I just wanted to get that out of the way now. But getting back to the coaster. So as you approach the park, one of the things obviously that Carowinds did, if you looked up photos and videos of it, is obviously the front gate. It passes right under you. It goes right under the guests. It looks just amazing. And it obviously, Carowinds obviously, or Cedar Fair did that with the gatekeeper too at Cedar Point. So, it's clever that they're using, their main attraction to. I would argue that gatekeeper is not the main attraction at Cedar Point, but I would definitely see what they're going for, and I would say obviously, Carowinds' lineup of coasters are not great, but because Fury's so good, it's still worth it. It makes up for it because Fury is just such an amazing ride. But yeah, the front row, when you pass it, you see that turnaround section going underneath you and stuff. It just looks amazing. It makes a bold impression. And even when you're coming up to the front entrance to scan your ticket to enter, you look to your right and it's right there. You see that massive drop and it just looks amazing. And so the skyline, and also I should mention too, backtracking a little bit, when you're in your car and you're approaching it, it's just so tall. It stands in the skyline. It is such an amazing skyline. Just seeing that. It was just amazing. And then seeing the train pass underneath you, just a great photo opportunity. And so, yeah, it just gets you pumped for the entrance. But then as you make your way through the park and you get to the entrance, I will tell you that Fury, I think Copperhead Strike has a better sign, but Fury's sign is still really good. I think Fury's sign looks amazing, and it works very well. I think they did a good job with the art style of that. And then kind of just seeing the tall lift right behind it, it just, looks fantastic. Obviously, it's a Cedar Fair park, so, theming is not, the biggest deal. Obviously, again, Copperhead Strike is definitely one of the best, even though I haven't been to all the Cedar Fair parks, I've, watched almost every single one of their coaster videos online, and I could definitely tell you that Copperhead is definitely one of the top good theming coasters, and obviously I did that too when I was at Carowinds, and amazingly themed. But I guess you don't really need theming because the ride's so good. I guess they don't really need to because I know they're still gonna be popular, and of course it is. But yeah, the station, pretty generic station. Nothing really to talk about there. I will actually, I take that back. I will say I do like the hexagon. As you're going in and out the station, the green hexagon. So it's kind of cool, I guess. But and then I guess let's now kind of quickly, talk about the stats. Obviously Fury is 325 feet. And the drop is 320 feet. And the stats claim that the ride is 1 minute and 2 seconds. I timed that. I timed that actually myself. Actually, I take that back. No, 1 minute and 2 seconds is how long I timed it from actually when you're actually doing ride time, because every single park seems to count, the time when you're going up the lift and the time, when you're on the brake run, but actual ride time is 1 minute and 2 seconds from the time you go down the drop to the time you hit the brakes. So it's 6,602 feet of track, which is amazing. It's actually one of the other main reasons why it's so good. It's such a long ride. I've done, actually, out of all the manufacturers, B&M is the most coasters I've done, because I actually counted my credits. Yeah, B&M is the most I've done, and Fury is definitely very unique of a coaster. I hope we see more like that. There's no other, I would say there's not, I know there's other Gigas, but they don't come close to Fury's design and art. Fury is just an art. It is an amazing layout. It is such a good coaster. 95 miles an hour, which is amazing, and it opened in 2015. It's just a really good ride, and it's still amazing. I actually wanted to kind of quickly talk about with the crack, because I feel like I kind of want to mention this. People freak out, that roller coasters, people obviously get nervous at roller coasters, which is very understandable. This is not how to get over fear of roller coasters video, but, they are designed to be safe. And the reason why I'm mentioning this is kind of related to the crack. I actually wanted to say this earlier when I brought it up. The B&M especially, B&M is one of the top. It is one of the most expensive roller coasters, I think, as far as I understand. One of the most expensive compared to a lot of other manufacturers that you could buy from. And for good reason, because they're engineered so well. People freak out, oh, you're so dangerous, you're going to die, during that crack. But obviously, if they kept that running for weeks, yeah, okay, maybe over time, yeah, I could start getting a problem. But having the coaster run a couple times when there's a crack is actually not a big deal, because it's been manufactured to handle a problem like that. However, I will say this, that I do think the supports, I'm not an engineer, so I can't be 100% on this, but this is my speculation, kind of, sort of maybe observation, what I'm noticing. The supports kind of look like they're designed terribly, because if you know physics, when and obviously it happened on that turn, before it goes up into the, the sideways banking over the pathway and then up in the turnaround, if you look at the way the support is, it's actually going down the same way that the track is going. How do I explain this? Obviously, when you have force, obviously the train is going sideways. So when it goes around that turn, the force wants to push the opposite way. It's not the opposite way. It wants to push it wants to push out to the direction that it's going, because it's making a turn and it's sideways. The force wants to push. If you're looking at it from the video perspective, it's coming over your head. It's to the right of the track. You should see that support diagonally coming down from the right, not the left. It's coming from the left, so when that train is traveling over that track, there's nothing to counterbalance that force. Which I think that's why it cracked. If you had a support pushing against the track when it wants to force to the right, I don't think it would crack. And so I feel like that's a really bad design. But again, I am not an engineer, so I don't know that 100%, but it feels like it would make sense, because why would you have the supports going the opposite way when that train's going to travel on that track there, that it's going to push it the opposite way? It doesn't make sense. I just wanted to mention that, but anyways, back to the thing. So the getting on the ride, obviously during my first ride it was amazing. They're well known for their, you know, their clamshell harness, and always really comfortable. Mako, obviously SeaWorld Orlando has the same design because it's made by the same company, and it's just really comfortable. Which one of the bonus reasons why Fury is such a good ride, because it's not uncomfortable at all. So I guess so now real quick I will talk about seating. So it really depends how busy they are. When I went, I got there early morning because I'm, as a coaster enthusiast, I do the same thing in Busch Gardens. It's good to get there early before the guests start to roll in. Actually, I want to mention something later in a little bit when I start talking about the ride. It was kind of funny. I'll mention it a little bit, but it starts to get busy later. So I got there early, so at the beginning, it wasn't too bad. My first 3 rides, I was able to sit where I wanted to. But even then, excuse me. Even then, let's see how to wear this. The operators basically do not basically allow you to choose your seat. They basically tell you where to sit, which is kind of annoying. Given the fact that too, this is a major roller coaster. I guess I understand the reason is because, especially when they're really busy, they're trying to keep the line moving. And I will tell you in a little bit. It was long, and I'll talk about that in a little bit later on. But yeah, they want to fill every seat as much as they can. So I guess that's the reason. But either way, it's still annoying. So I was able to be polite, and I did get a back row ride a couple times. I was still lucky. Even then, I was still able to sit in the back row a couple times. I did sit in the middle a couple times. I rode in the front once because for me, I'm actually a backseat rider. I don't really... Front row is great for the speed. I rode it in the front. And just like on any coaster, the front, you don't really feel the drop as much. You definitely feel it more in the back. In the front, you just kind of feel that speed picking up, and you feel the wind in your face. But yeah, they most likely will not let you pick your seat. So try to be polite if you ask them. They may not. But I think if you're polite and you keep going enough, you'll get to sit where you sit at some point. But I just wanted to mention that. And so they do, and I will talk about it too. Operations are amazing. They are always pumping out trains, especially, I could see when a train pulled in the station, the guests leave, on the intercom, they told the guests, you have 30 seconds to get on the train and pull down your harness. They are trying to keep these operations moving. So they're sending a train out every 30 seconds. It's amazing. The operations are really incredible on Fury. Which is amazing. It's definitely the best operated coaster in the park. So they might get staple you. You're just gonna have to deal with it because it happens. But anyway, so let's get into the experience of the ride. So obviously, I'll kind of walk you through my experience, especially my first ride. My first ride was back row, left seat. And as I'm pulling out of the station and climbing up the lift, I'm like, man, I'm in heaven right now. I can't believe. It was amazing. I was getting so excited, as I was climbing the lift, it was just, my anticipation, my excitement was building. And as I crest over, when I went over that drop the first time, it was like, holy cow, this is amazing. Again, it wasn't, it was amazing, but obviously I was kind of a little disappointed because, I didn't get that sensation that I kind of was hoping for, but it was so amazing drop. Like I said, I don't need to talk about too much. You feel like you're falling forever. It's just amazing. And then as you get to the bottom, I did gray out a little bit, and then going over, going up that first overbank or turn, would you call it? I don't need to call it. I don't call it an overbank or turn. It's amazing. And it's also kind of cool. What was also amazing is you actually get a lot of good ejector pops of airtime. It's a quick ejector. It's not like an RMC ejector, but when you make a lot of those twists and turns, it's kind of amazing. One of the things that is kind of amazing about Fury is and that kind of sort of reminded me of I-305, but not nowhere near as intense. I-305, people kind of joke about it too. It's funny. Those transitions, those turns are incredibly intense. Fury kind of does it too, but not to a part where, not many people can ride. A side note too is it seems like it's a great giant family attraction. Can't believe I'm calling Fury a family attraction. but I've witnessed a lot of kids riding it. There was a couple times where I sat next to some kids or some kids riding behind me. So it seems like because it's not intense, it's definitely appealed to a larger audience. Just like with any B&M, you're 54 inches to ride. I believe that's what it is. I know that is how it is at Busch Gardens, but yeah, I mean, so a lot of kids can ride, a lot of family can ride. It's not intense that most people can enjoy it, unless you're afraid of heights. I wouldn't advise it, but as far as the ride, it's not intense compared to I-305. So those turns that you feel the airtime, it's not overdone, that nobody can enjoy it. So I just wanted to say that real quick. But yeah, a lot of these going in and out, direct right and left directions. It's amazing when you feel those turns. But yeah, as you come out, you get a good pop of ejector. Then you come back, kind of do another turn, and then that's when you approach the pathway, and then you pass over. You kind of bank sideways, almost 90 degrees, and you come up and turn around. One of the things I really admire, about the layout is you can tell, that it's definitely not just the fact that it's a B&M and it's a long ride, but like the elements are really, most of them. I'll talk about, I think the second half of the ride is kind of, the airtime hills are great. The second half of the ride is kind of, The first half is where Fury really shines. But I will say for the most part, like the layout is very creative compared to, especially even though I haven't been there, Leviathan, Canada's Wonderland, the other Giga coaster, is definitely, even Orion at Kings Island. I haven't obviously ridden either one of those. Maybe I'll review those later on, and I plan on going to Kings Island within the next year or so, hopefully. But Orion definitely kind of looks more like Leviathan. So Fury's, again, a very unique layout. But that turnaround section, what I was going to say is, like, especially all the B&M Hypers, they kind of have the same turnaround. All of them just kind of have a basic turnaround. Nitro at Six Flags Great Adventure, Mako at SeaWorld, Intimidator, all of them have the same turnaround. Some Hypers are unique, but most of them kind of feel the same. So I like that, obviously they had to have a turnaround. It has to happen so that the train can head back to the station. But I like that they put a twist on it, no pun intended. It's kind of unique. You go to the ground and then you pop up, and then that's when you get some amazing, more ejector airtime coming down. Now, this is what I wanted to mention real quick about the guests. So, obviously, during my first ride, when I came around to go back to the when I went to the turnaround to come around to go back towards the station, boy, I got there early. I was glad I did. When I went under the pathway, there was a long line out to the parking lot. When I got there, it wasn't that bad, so I got there at a good time. But then when we were going underneath the pathway, boy, did the line get long. It was so satisfying to be riding Fury and looking at all those guests waiting in line to enter the park. I was like, man, this is nice. I'm riding Fury right now, and all these people are waiting in line. So that was kind of funny. It was a long line, too. But yeah, going down underneath that pathway, you get some great poppy, more of ejector. It's just so good. And then you pop up again, do another little twist, and then kind of straighten out. And then you go into your first basic airtime hill. There is a trim on it. It doesn't hit that hard. At least I didn't feel it hitting that hard. You still get some good floater there. And then one of the parts of the ride that I feel like was kind of underwhelming is that turnaround. I really feel like it's just there to add some, length. I'm glad it's there, I guess, because it, adds more time to the layout. Instead of just going directly into the, airtime, it adds a good couple seconds on the ride. There is a cool near miss of the supports when you're halfway through the turnaround section, which is kind of cool. Obviously, they're going to make sure clearance is good there, but it's kind of cool. Even though I know that as a coach enthusiast, my psyche is still have me put my hands down because thinking I'm going to hit it. So, that was good. And then after you go into that turnaround, you get some two good floater air times, and that's when you pop back up to the brake run. So it is an amazing ride. I thought it was great. I wanted to talk about, too, the smoothness, because I haven't mentioned that yet. The first half of the ride was a little rough. I guess partially because, it's just such, it's going so fast. There's a lot of force on the track. It definitely kind of felt vibraty. I guess because of the force. It kind of felt like almost like a massage. Like it kind of felt like that. It was just very like shaky. But the second half of the ride was definitely smoothing out, which I guess again makes sense because the force is kind of, less there. When you're going on later on the layout, it, starts to slow down. But it was still, for the most part, it was definitely, pretty smooth. Um, and another thing I want to mention too is there's a lot of laterals too, especially with those turns. In addition to feeling those proper ejector airtime, you're getting a lot of laterals twisting on those, which is amazing. And so it's just a really good ride. And like I said, it's not that intense. I think it's a perfect balance between intensity and fun. There are some moments like the bottom of the first drop is definitely the most intense part of the ride because that's where the most force is. But it's still a good ride. Um, and so that's kind of my thoughts on the experience. And then I wanted to talk about Scarowinds. So like I said, at night, boy, I mean, I definitely got some night rides on Fury, and I'll attach both the daytime and ride time. I mean, I had to get a photo. The thing actually, real quick, I'm disappointed about is that Carowinds does not. I mean, all Cedar Fair parks do not allow guests to take GoPros, which doesn't make sense. I would have absolutely, with no question, bought a GoPro and took it on my first ride. But I've actually seen that they don't play around. They are very strict. I've seen a guest. I think I saw a guest take a phone or something or camera on the ride, and they actually shut down the ride and made the guests get off. Like, they are very serious. I didn't want to ruin my experience. It wasn't worth it that much to me. I didn't want to ruin my experience. I was almost tempted to sneak one on, but I was like, you know what, not worth it. I just want to enjoy Fury and ride it. And so I just bought a ride photo instead, which again, like I said, I'll attach here. But it's kind of crazy because I don't know why. I guess they're just trying to be extra precautious, to avoid any possibilities, because when somebody has a GoPro, I guess it does increase the chances of some guests getting hit. Side note too, actually, I actually got hit, not with a camera, thank God, but I think it was like my third or fourth ride, I actually got hit with a key fob on my head. Don't worry, I was all right. It was just a little bump. I was okay, which that was actually amazing because I'm traveling at a good speed. It was towards the end of the ride when I was going in those last airtime hills, so it wasn't like the beginning of the ride. But yeah, I got hit with a key fob, and it did not feel very good. But I can understand. But yeah, Busch Gardens, Tampa, my home park, they allow GoPros. I probably should buy one soon to take on Iron Gwazi, but they allow GoPros. So I don't understand why Cedar Fair doesn't, but it's their choice. They can do what they want. So. But I wanted to talk about Scarowinds. So at night, I got some night rides on it. It was amazing. That lighting package on the lift hill looks great. And especially I would say too, most of the time I don't like waiting in line, but being able to wait in line, and with that lift hill above your head with the lighting package at night, it looks amazing. I took some video, which I'll put in the review. I took some video of Fury. It was amazing. The lighting package looks great. I was kind of disappointed because at first, but I also kind of should have thought about it because Fury does pass the parking lot. I was hoping for a pitch black night ride, but that wasn't the case. Only the drop in the first turnaround section was kind of some darkness, but once you got towards the turnaround section, you started seeing some light because it's by the parking lot. But it was still amazing riding that thing at night. It was awesome. But yeah, the line, boy, Scarowinds is crazy. I've seen it obviously get worse, but I mean the line for Fury during the day, I saw it on average of 30 minutes. At night it went up to almost 2 hours. It was like an hour and 40 minutes. Fury got a long way. No surprise, why? Because it's such a great ride. But the line was super long. Scarowinds is definitely really busy, so be aware of that if you go. It is crazy. Obviously, Halloween is about to end pretty soon, anyways. But if you're still planning on going, it definitely is a long wait. But I also wanted to real quickly kind of talk about the second half of the ride, or towards the end, especially going over those last airtime hills. You see a lot of backstage stuff, a lot of it almost feels like industrial. I'm kind of surprised that Carowinds didn't, I guess, hide again. They're not really there. They're not I still don't justify the price at a SeaWorld park, but they're a lot cheaper, so I guess I can't complain. They're so much cheaper compared to a day ticket at Busch Gardens, compared to a $40 ticket at Carowinds. It's just crazy. But anyways, I'm still not complaining. It's a minor thing, So that is my review of Fury 325. It was an awesome ride. I hope we see more of that, in the future. I'm excited to, hopefully experience it again later on in my life, and hopefully get to go ride Orion. I've heard it's not as good as Fury, but, got to get my credits, and I want to experience that. So, thanks for watching. And And if feel free to give me any thoughts that you have on the coaster if you've done Fury or what you think about it. So thanks for watching.